Perfect. Okay, so welcome to the Alumni Town Hall with President Johnson. It is my pleasure to introduce our sixth president of Western New England University. Dr. Johnson joined us in mid-August and has been here now for a whole 8 weeks. And we're really excited about the energy that he's brought to campus. Dr. Johnson's unyielding belief in higher education as a public good and as a path for transforming individual lives has led him to dedicate his 30-year career to preparing students to adapt and succeed in a dynamic future, which is something we'll talk a little bit about tonight. Dr. Johnson's leadership career spans nonprofit colleges and universities in the Northeast and Midwest, including public, private, urban, rural, small, and large institutions. He's known as a transformational leader, elevating institutional stature and driving enrollment growth in each of his prior institutions. Thank you, President Johnson, for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thanks to all of you who are joining us this evening. So I will confess, the reason we started a few minutes late is for whatever reason, Katie had me locked out and I couldn't get into Zoom. And no, we were having a few technical glitches. So, but it's certainly a pleasure to be here with all of you. I have been here all of 8 weeks. It is an exciting time at Western New England. You know, I thought I'd just spend a few minutes talking to you about a few things, and then, you know, perhaps we can then entertain into some question and answers, a bit of dialogue about whatever you would like to talk about. First and foremost, let me say that even though we're in the midst of a global pandemic, even though the world is in disarray in a number of ways when we look globally, Western New England University is still a great place and a great place to be. And I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to spend the first minute or two talking about a little bit about my journey here. Then I'll take a few minutes to give you an update on the pandemic. And then thirdly, I will spend a minute or two talking about the path forward and how I look forward to working with you as brand ambassadors for the institution in the upcoming years. You may or may not know I am a native of Detroit, a Red Wings fan, a Tigers fan. I can root for the Patriots, they're okay. I grew up a Cowboys fan. And I can root for the Red Sox as long as they're not playing the Tigers. And I happen to be a Celtics fan. They've grown on me over the years. When I think about Western New England, it is this vibrant place that has the possibilities and a balance of the liberal arts and the professional schools, which is one of the things that attracted me here. But what really attracted me here are the people, the students, the faculty, the staff, the energy. It is a place like Cheers where everybody knows your name. It is a community, what I call a community of learners. It is an exciting place to be. It is an exciting time to be here. The campus is beautiful as always. And even though we are in a global pandemic, you know, we've had very few positive cases on our campus. When we look at our students, they are excited to be back on campus. About 15 or 16% of our classes are taught fully online. About another 13 or 14% are in a hybrid mode, which means they're partially online and partially face-to-face. And we have about just over 50% of our classes that are fully face-to-face. And the balance are in the form of internships and labs and co-ops. So, you know, students are in the residence halls. We tested everyone, faculty, staff, and students when we reopened back in late August. And to date, we've only had, I think, a total of 12 or 14 positive cases since school started some 6 or 7 weeks ago. In the last week, knock on wood, we've not had any positive cases. We are randomly testing students and employees to the tune of about 300 people every time we do the random testing. and it is a great cross-section of individuals. You would be proud of the Golden Bears. Golden Bears are wearing masks everywhere. Every place you go on campus, students, faculty, and staff, we're all wearing masks. And you should know that the faculty, many of them from whom you had the opportunity of taking classes, the staff that you work with, all of the employees, they work tirelessly over the summer to give our students the experience that they're having today. We do social distancing, we have arrows in the buildings, and we're fine. We're letting the science guide our work in terms of what we will or will not do. The athletic teams, the sports teams are not playing yet. They are practicing. We're in what we call phase 2 when it comes to practice. And the students are still, even though we're not actually playing any games, they're excited to be out there practicing and having a bit of fun. We are in good shape for the shape that we're in when it comes to the pandemic. I am confident that we will make it through Thanksgiving with classes face-to-face without shutting the campus down, if you will. We only have about 4 or 5 weeks until that point in time. When the students go home for Thanksgiving, they have the option of, almost wanted to sneeze, that's why I paused. First time I would have ever sneezed on Zoom. The students will have the option of completing the rest of their courses online for the remaining 2 weeks, which would also include finals, or they can come back if they choose to. They will have that option as well. We plan to be open in the spring term, just as we were this year. We will provide the students with a few more breaks. So let me talk a little bit about, where we're going. I'm currently in the process of doing a listening tour. Actively listening to faculty, staff, and students in small groups of 15 or less, and just asking them about the possibilities of the future. There are about 15 or 16 of these meetings. We also have a questionnaire that I'm using. I'm asking every group the same 10 questions. This questionnaire is also available for you or will be made available for you online so that you can go and fill it out and give us your feedback. I should be finished with the listening tour by November, by the end of the first week of November. We're going to take all of that information, look for the overwhelming themes and what have you, and then determine what's going to be our path forward for Western New England University for the next 5 to 5 years. We will look at having anywhere from 5 to 7 strategic priorities, which we will unveil in the spring of next year. We're not going to do a traditional strategic plan. And we're going to really work hard to make sure that as we reinvent ourselves for a post-COVID world, as Western New England University in our second century, that we're leaner, meaner, better, ready to go, and ready to meet the needs of the next generation of workers. Here's what I believe fundamentally, is that as we prepare students for the future of work, we're literally educating them for jobs that do not yet exist, to solve problems yet to be identified, utilizing technology that has not been created. My son and daughter, our students today, will have upwards of 17 jobs in 5 different industries, and 3 of those industries do not yet exist. What we intend to do is to make sure that all of our graduates have what I call the agile mind. We're going to give them knowledge and the power of learning. We're going to give them the essential human skills that cannot be replicated by a robot or an algorithm, that puts them in the mindset of constantly adding and creating new value, no matter what they're doing and no matter what walk of life that they're going through. Our goal is to make sure that we prepare them for this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. So I want to thank each and every one of you for all that you have done. And as we continue to work, we want to work with you as our brand ambassadors. to help our students to gain experience. We're looking at creating a model where every student who attends Western New England University will have some form of experiential learning. We'll need your help to coach them and mentor our students, and to help them get co-ops and internships, and write letters of recommendation for them to get into graduate and professional schools. We want to engage you and encourage you to join us on our advisory boards and our advisory councils. Help us to spread the good news of Western New England and all that we have to offer. It truly is a great place. You know, we want you to also think about, as we're evolving the Western New England brand, and as we figure out what the 2.0 version looks like in our second century, to help us go out and carry the good news about our institution. May it be the exceptional passage rate of our students in occupational therapy, or the fact that our law school currently, our law alum, we currently have over 150 sitting judges, or that we've produced 4 bank presidents, and the list goes on and on and on and on of what all of you have done to represent Western New England in all of its forms and its fashion. We're looking to make sure that as we evolve the student experience for our students, that we give them wonderful opportunities in the classroom and out of the classroom. We want to thank you and ask you for your continued support with your gifts. They do make a difference for our students. The number of students that are attending Western New England University for first generation, that number continues to go up. The needs of our students, given the global economy and the things that are going on in the world, they continue to need your help. So I want to thank you for those gifts and encourage you to continue with those gracious things that you're providing for our students on a regular and ongoing basis. I'm really, really excited about being here at Western New England. The best is yet to come. And I know that there's a global pandemic, and I know that there's social and economic dislocation given the economy right now. And I know that there's unrest or uncertainty about the presidential election. But regardless how all of those, any of those things turn out, I'm here to tell you, everything is going to be all right. We're going to be fine. You know, when you send students to us, you know, consider us like Allstate, that they're going to be in good hands. We are the Good Hands University that will continue to provide our students with the same exceptional experiences that all of you had. So I thank you for all that you've done. I appreciate you. I respect you. And as we go out into the world and educate the next generation of young people to transform the world with a sense of humanity, civility, and civil discourse, join us to make a difference in the lives of the students whom we touch each and every day. Katie, I think I'll stop there, and you know, let's get a dialogue going. I'm happy to answer any questions, comments.
Great, thank you, President Johnson. And as a reminder to everyone on the line, you can use the Q&A panel to submit your questions. It does look like we're starting to have some questions coming in. Our first question, each year thousands of alumni share their time and talents with the university as volunteers. How do you think about the value of alumni volunteerism, and in what ways would you like to see alumni more engaged in the university's work?
I think the value of alumni volunteerism is exceptional, because each of you represent to our students what the possibilities are. You know, the best stories that we have to tell about Western New England University is each and every one of you. So as volunteers, you know, we need you to continue to be engaged, you know, with your time and with your energy. It does make a difference in the lives of the students. You know, when they see you and you're telling your story about what it was like when you were a freshman at Western New England, and some of the things that you went through to get to where you are now, it inspires them. You know, a lot of times they think that, you know, we were all born and we came out of our mother's womb just as we are, and that we did not have to struggle and work our way through school and and that we didn't have any challenges along the way. So I very, very much believe in the volunteerism of the alumni. And in fact, I also want our students to be engaged in community engagement and volunteering and making a difference in the world. Because I think it is through those pragmatic experiences that it prepares them for the real world of work. It gives them things like resiliency and divergent thinking and social and emotional intelligence. It gives them the ability to think or to have an entrepreneurial outlook and understand how to add and create value. So you telling your stories to our students, either individually, in a classroom, in small groups, or in a large audience, it really serves as a great example to each and every one of them. So I would encourage you to continue to do what you're doing, because you are truly making a difference in the lives of our students.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question from Michael. I might butcher your last name, Michael DiGiamo, class of 1984. Michael says, welcome to WNEU. I wish you only success, because if you succeed, Western New England succeeds. What is the financial position of Western New England at the 8-month point of the pandemic?
Right now, at the 8-month point of the pandemic, we're doing well. We're stable. The pandemic, among a few other things, we did start off the year with a structural budget deficit, but we have well over $23 million in cash reserves, and there's at least another 20+ million dollars of cash available for us from our endowments. So in the grand scheme of things, we're in great shape. I happen to sit on a call every other Friday with 40 or 50 college and university presidents, and I can assure you, we're stable, we're fine. We have had to make, and we probably will continue to have to make some changes in order to make sure that we remain in balance with our budgets, not only this year, but in upcoming years. COVID has added expenses via testing and PPEs and additional housekeepers that we had to hire in order to do cleaning. And I shouldn't understate what the employees are doing, and our housekeeping staff in particular. You will see them throughout the day wiping down door handles, desk, fobs, and all of those kinds of things. And I think that's one of the reasons why even our most recent testing, random testing of about almost 300 people, we had no positive tests. We tested everyone when we came on board. We continue to test. People are doing what they're supposed to do. But our overall financial position, we're fine, and we're going to be fine. There are institutions out there, I think it's questionable as to whether or not they're going to make it. I will tell you, recruiting for this upcoming fall is going to be hard because we are in the land of the unknown in terms of understanding consumer behavior and what students and parents will be looking for. We don't know what the economy is going to look like. And one of the ways, I guess, also going back to the last question that was asked, that you can help us in January, we're going to launch some form of a Each One Reach One campaign. And in part, it will be about helping us to identify students who may want to attend Western New England University, and maybe you serving as a coach or mentor to them as they go through the process. And in other instances, it may very well be engaging you to help us re-recruit our current students to keep them engaged. Because think about what it's been like for them. For a freshman who just came in, last spring, they had a half a semester where they were at home and pretty much on lockdown. They come here and, we have social distancing, and we don't have large events so that they can truly connect in ways that you did when you were freshmen on campus, because we can't have the large social gatherings and what have you. So we're going to be looking for different and creative ways to recruit new students and to retain our students. But to go back to the core question that you asked, the financial disposition of Western New England is fine. And whatever financial challenges we had, I knew about them before I got here. And so I can rest assure you, I wouldn't have left a job when I wasn't looking for a job to come here. I came here because this is a great place. There will be life after COVID, and I simply just love the people.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from Brandon O'Brien, class of 15 and 16. He says, welcome, President Johnson. He has a two-part question. What is one new, bold, innovating idea you have for Western New England? And second, how can we as alumni right now help you and assist you in your assessment of the university and crafting of the strategic goals?
Okay, so let me start with the last one, and then I'll come to the first one. The last question, then I'll get to the first question. The way that you can help us in terms of crafting our strategic goals and our vision, or our shared ambition, as I would call it. The first thing you can do is, if you were not one of the people or individuals selected, if you were not one of the individuals selected or asked to participate in the face-to-face conversations with me, to literally go out online and complete the questionnaires, which are the same 10 questions that I'm asking everyone in the face-to-face meetings. That will give us ideas that will help us to generate the possibilities of what the future will look like. And in terms of one bold idea, I'm still listening and I'm learning. But one of the things that came out in one of my listening sessions with a group of faculty, and I think it was earlier this week. You know, my days run together. Life goes so quickly, right, Katie? Is this idea of, and it's not really bold, but it's really a way of creating an environment so every student will have experiential learning. And they came up with the idea of a center, a center for, what did they call it? A center for experiential learning, which would be a combination of the career center, co-ops, internships, community service, pulling folk together, pulling all of our students together in multiple ways to make sure that every graduate has hands-on experience when they graduate. And that's not a very, very bold one, but let me talk about one that I don't know if it's bold, but it's what I believe. I want to make sure that every graduate from Western New England University graduates as a global citizen, understanding their place in the world with a sense of humanity, civility, civil discourse, and mutual respect. On a planet with more than 7.7 billion people, as educated citizens, we are privileged. So therefore, and we represent about 7% of the world's population. So therefore, we have a social responsibility to give back. And in giving back, I want them to embody a global citizenship and the agile mindset in all of its forms. Global citizenship in terms of academic excellence, that is being very proficient in all that they do. Having a personal brand so that they can constantly reinvent themselves with an elevator speech in all that they do. And social responsibility, to give back and leave the world better than they found it, better than the way they found it. But most importantly, when I talk about the agile mindset, preparing them for the future of work, for the unknown, given the balance of programs that we have with the liberal arts and the professional schools to solve for the unknown. How do you educate a young person for a job that doesn't exist, that does not exist? I want every student who graduates from Western New England to be a divergent thinker. They can take the Legos, throw them across the table, and create something out of nothing. I want them to have social and emotional intelligence, to work collaboratively on teams and solve problems. I want each and every one of them to have this entrepreneurial spirit where they understand that they must add and create value in all they do, no matter what their major happens to be. And then I want them to have a multidisciplinary experience, a balance of the liberal arts and the professional schools, so that they're well-rounded as individuals, that they're well-spoken as individuals, great communicators, And I think doing some of those kinds of things will really prepare our students to go out into the world of work. In terms of a really, really bold idea, I do have one. I'm not going to share it with you because if I do, it would be like sharing it before I finish my listening tour. And because a couple of people have already mentioned it in some of my listening tours, it's important to me that everyone understands that it's our idea and not mine.
That's great, thank you. And I'm going to go out of order in the questions just because there's one that I feel like is a follow-up to the discussion that we're having right now. So Kim W. from the class of '89 would like to know, how do you feel we best prepare our students for their first jobs? I personally feel that the most important thing we can teach these young adults is how to listen, investigate, and apply. In other words, we need to teach them how to learn. What are your thoughts?
I think so. And what was her name?
Kim.
Kim, thank you for the question. So how do we teach them how to learn? So you heard me talk about the agile mindset. If we give every student the agile mindset, it's three components. It's knowledge and the power of learning, essential human skills that cannot be replicated by a robot, and value creation. So speaking specifically to your point, learning how to learn. Well, that's really the first part of the agile mindset. It's knowledge. Knowledge is making sure that every student, no matter what their major is, that they're very proficient in that discipline. But the power of learning is all about learning how to learn for the rest of your life. That is inherent in my definition of the agile mindset when I say knowledge and the power of learning. And we don't teach them that they just need to learn because it's important. We need to teach them to learn how to learn in the context of constantly reinventing themselves. About a year or so ago, I was talking to a group of nursing students, and I was talking to them about the agile mindset and the importance of lifelong learning, knowledge and the power of learning. And they said, we don't have to reinvent ourselves. We don't have to worry about, AI and technology. And I said, oh, yes, you do. Because over in Japan right now, there are literally robots who are turning patients over in hospital beds. So no matter what world of work that you're in, lifelong learning is going to have to be a way. And the most important thing with the lifelong learning piece in the agile mindset is helping every student to understand their why, their purpose, their reason for being. So if we indoctrinate our students with this conceptual thinking of knowledge and the power of learning, which was really about understanding your why and contextually their place in the world, they're going to be ready for that first job and every job thereafter. And they're going to have to be creative problem solvers, and they're going to have to do it in groups. And I think the Center for Experiential Learning could put a requirement on all of our students, for example, that every student, no matter what your major is, you have to do a capstone project. And maybe a capstone project is not in the traditional sense of just doing it with other students within your program. Perhaps, we put 5 students in a group and have them to identify a real world problem and come up with a self-sustaining business solution to solve that problem. And the 5 students are from different academic disciplines. And why is that important? Because depending upon the discipline that you're in, the way that you're taught to solve problems is different. So you put the engineer with the artist, okay? And their approach and the sides of the brain that they use to solve problems are different. So you put them together and they learn from each other on different ways of not just learning, but also problem solving. I hope I answered your question, Kim.
Great, thank you. Switching gears a bit, Jeff Sagalin would like to know, who are the individuals who have most influenced you in your life and who are your mentors?
That's a really, really, really good question. So for me, I've been fortunate. First and foremost, my mom and my dad. My dad taught me, I venture to say, at least 50% of the leadership principles that I live by. He was always counseling and coaching me since I was a little boy, just telling me that, you know, you're going to lead whatever you do. And then he gave me a lesson for life that ultimately turned into real leadership principles. My mom, because she is mentally the toughest person I know. I mean, just strong, resilient. You know, most people when they meet my parents, they think it's my dad that's the tough one that gave me my resiliency, but it's not. It's my mom. And then throughout my life, I've been fortunate. I've had a great number of mentors. You know, the very first one that I had, I was 24 years old, 26, 5 years old. I was working for Dr. Arthur Thomas, who was the president of Central State University at the time. I was his executive director of admissions and enrollment. He used to write his speeches. And even though I was not on his cabinet, his senior leadership team, he would invite me to every meeting. And, you know, every now and then he'd call on me to say something, but for the most part, I would listen. And after each meeting, he would spend at least 80% of the time after each meeting, he'd spend 10 or 15 minutes with me and explain to me why he made the decisions he made and the rationale behind them. And I mean, I would just sit there and I was like a sponge and I would just soak up all of this information. So you fast forward, I'm 34 years old and, you know, I'm a finalist to become vice provost at Oakland University. And, you know, the president there, Gary Russey, who ultimately hired me, it took him 2 weeks to make the decision because he could not understand why I could know so much stuff firsthand based upon what I observed from Dr. Thomas. Dr. Thomas was a casebook study of teaching me without knowing that I was being taught at the time. Judge Damon Keith, federal judge, he is now deceased, is a man who inspired me and motivated me in so many ways throughout the course of my life. And then another individual, my uncle Bob, who I was named after, Robert E. Johnson. He was the associate publisher of Jet magazine. He literally wrote the history of Black America in real time via that weekly publication in the 50s, 60s, and 70s until BET came along. That was the only way you could get national news was through Jet magazine. And because, you know, he was a journalist and literally knew every president from Eisenhower to Clinton. In fact, he was on the plane with Richard Nixon when he went to China as part of the press corps. I just learned a wealth of information and knowledge from Uncle Bob, and he inspires me even until today. And there are countless others. I could go on and on. I have to give you one more. A lady by the name of Barbara Hay, who was my boss when I was very, very young. I was 23 years old. I was her VP of marketing. And she said something to me that really stuck with me. She said, whatever you do, don't be afraid to fail. And it's been a lifelong lesson of leadership for me that I still tell people who work with me, don't be afraid to fail. Because if you do, you'll never try anything new.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Scott Massey who would like to know, once we get through this pandemic, what do you see as the greatest challenge facing Western New England?
I don't know if it's the greatest challenge, but it will be a challenge to reintroduce ourselves to the world as a new traditional university that is click and mortar, where we will become the first choice university for more students. I think that's part of it. I think the challenge that is coupled with that is the mental health of our students and our employees in a post-COVID world. So think about it. Think about the person, the kid who's in the 9th grade last year and had to finish school, you know, online or remotely, who is now in the 10th grade, and depending upon where they are, they may still be learning remotely. And maybe they took pre-algebra and algebra during that time, and they're now in the 11th grade, and they go into the 11th grade, and because they didn't quite get it right, they're in pre-calc, but you know, a lot of these schools are you know, they're not helping. Well, they are helping students as best they can, but there's only so much you can do without being face to face. Our freshmen who just came to us, no social contact. They weren't prepared for college by their high school counselors, in the last semester of their senior year. They come here and we can't engage them and hug them like golden bears like we normally do. I think this pandemic will take a serious mental toll on our young people. And I think that we will have to retool ourselves in a number of ways in the delivery of services, teaching, and learning to meet the needs of our students so that they can cope.
Great, and that is a great segue to, I'm going to jump around in the order of questions now, because we had an anonymous question that says, with the increase in online classes, how is Western New England encouraging collaboration for students and those connections that they may be missing out on due to the pandemic?
Well, what I find is our faculty are pretty creative. So in one of my faculty listening sessions earlier this week, one of the faculty members spoke to that point and how she was engaging students in small groups, breaking them up in groups. And normally, you do that, you might do it in the classroom or something like that, but she's requiring them to do it via Zoom. But here's the thing, this faculty member, bless her heart, is joining each of those Zoom meetings with her students of 4 or 5 students. So if she's got 25 students in a class, she's going to 5 Zoom meetings and engaging them in that way. And some of the only 15% of the classes are fully online. So there are still lots of opportunities for our students to engage and collaborate. There are only a handful of students who are taking all of their classes fully online.
Great, thank you. Jeff Tate from the class of '07 would like to know, with your experience growing enrollment, do you see enrollment growth as a strategic initiative for the future? And also, how beautiful is the campus at this time of year? Jeff, it's amazing.
Oh, the campus is it is fantastic. It is amazing. It is a beautiful, gorgeous campus. You walk on campus, you pull up on campus, and it just takes your breath away. It is all of that and a cup of soup. In terms of, what was the first part of the question, Katie?
The sort of the priority around growing enrollment.
Oh, enrollment, right. Yeah, so enrollment is going to be really, really key. I think we want, in my mind, we're right at about 3,700 students, undergrad and grad. I would like for us to get to 4,000 students and stabilize, and remain there. If we could have, 26, 27, 2,800 undergrads, 1,200 or so grads, I think that would be fine. And if we grew beyond that, I would want it to be in the graduate and professional programs. One of the great things about Western New England is that we're large enough without being too large and small enough without being too small. It really is like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. And having worked at large, small, and medium institutions, that 4,000 to 5,000 student body population, I really do believe is the best of all worlds, because it gives you economies of scale so that you can build and sustain a viable financial model, but it's still personal. And what I really enjoy now that I wasn't afforded at my last institution is that, if a student writes me via email, I can pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, come on over and let's sit down and chat, because it's just enough students where I can do that. I can have open office hours and, any student can come up and just sit down and talk with me, and I'll be starting those in November. So I think growing, but reaching an enrollment of 4,000 students and sustaining it, given the demographics and the disruption in higher education, this is going to be extremely hard, because just like we will be looking for students, so will everyone else. So for us, it's going to be about our value proposition and our brand. And one of the questions earlier was, how can the alumni help? As we build out our value proposition and the way that we want to talk about Western New England in terms of our outcomes, like being fifth in the nation and first in the Commonwealth in terms of job placement rate and return on investment, according to Zappia, and getting those messages out there. Those are some of the things that you'll be able to help us with that will help us to build and then ultimately sustain our enrollment.
Great, thank you. So we have a question related to when you mentioned the professional programs. Andy Markowski, who's a law alum from the class of '05, asks, what's your vision for the role of the law school within the greater university? How can the law school be bolstered as a unique or differentiating asset for the university and the greater Western Mass and Northern Connecticut community?
Well, first of all, the law school is one of the programs on the top of my list to just do that. So let's go back to 1919. It was business and it was law. The law school is an essential part of our brand and our identity. So I do want it, Dean Setti and I, we've had conversations about, looking at the law school and how do we elevate it as a value and brand proposition for the university. Looking at the programs, the outcomes. I mean, think about this. We currently have over 150 alums right now who graduated from the law school who are sitting judges. We have, the Center for Social Justice. I think that's something we need to be talking about right now. When we think about the only game in this region as it relates to law school, I think we have a grand opportunity. But beyond that, I want the law school to not just have a regional identity. I want it to have a national identity. And I think that we have some best-in-class professors over there and individuals who are doing some things that we can get name recognition for the institution at a national level and recruit students literally from all over the country. So the law school is an essential ingredient to the future of Western New England. And I'm excited about the possibilities of where we can go and what we will be able to do with it. I'm just in week 9 right now, week 8. And, I know where all the light switches are, but when we have this conversation next spring, you'll see my hair on fire because I'll be so excited. I'll be so excited about that value and brand proposition, and the law school will be part of that.
Great, thank you. And I just want to remind everybody in the chat, you can find a link to the online survey for Vision 2025, which is the information collection as we, as President Johnson creates the priorities for the university. So that's a great place to let your voice be heard if there are specific things that are important to you. I'll also send it out in an email follow-up. Keep your questions coming. We have our next question from Laura Long, class of '07. Laura says, living on campus was one of the most impactful experiences at WNE. What do you see for the future of housing on campus?
Living on campus is, I think, an essential ingredient to the student experience and what we have to offer as part of teaching and learning on campus and co-curricular. I want to make sure that we continue to have a vibrant residential life on campus. I know over the last 10 years that the number of students living on campus has declined. I have some thoughts about ways in which we may be able to bolster that in the upcoming years to really help our student body get the most out of it. But residential learning is something, we can create learning communities within the residence halls that are topical by nature or by sports teams or by organizations, by personal interests, things of that nature. So I think that there are a number of ways and things that we can do that can enhance the residential experience on campus. And my goal is to stabilize it so that we can make that an intricate part of who we make, I guess, continue that as an intricate part of who we are.
Great, thank you. We have another question from Kim who asks, how does WNE go about attracting high quality students? I love the fact that there's now an honors program. Do you feel expanding that program will help attract great future leaders?
Yes, expanding the honors program is a priority of mine. I think it is a way of attracting great students. Ultimately, I think the way that we attract great students is our value proposition. So, Western New England is a great university, um, but we don't clearly articulate what our brand and value proposition is. And, over these upcoming weeks and months, that's one of the things that, we'll be working on so that we want to be known throughout the world for something. And I often use this analogy. If I tell you that my wife, Michelle, went to MIT, you would say she must be a rocket scientist. And if I say, well, no, she was an English major, you would say, well, she still must be brilliant, right? If you think about all great institutions, at the end of the day, they're primarily known for one thing. And then there's a halo effect for the rest of the programs, and people just assume that those other programs are equally as good. So my goal is to figure out what the one or two things are that we're going to take to the tallest building, shout as loud as we can, beat the loudest drum, and let the world know how great we are with that program. And then that program will create a halo effect for Western New England, which I then think becomes a greater draw for us as an institution.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Ted Rockus, undergrad 71, MBA in 78, and a granddaughter in the pharmacy program. Quite the Golden Bear legacy, Ted.
Yes.
So Ted asks, he said his granddaughter attends the pharmacy program and intends to proceed to the PharmD. How important do you view this program? So I guess a question on the other side of our professional programs.
Yeah, I think it's a very important program. I think that our PharmD program has to continue to evolve. And I think that there are plenty of opportunities with our PharmD program, our occupational therapy program in a post-COVID world. So what I envision, and I don't know exactly what the idea is going to be, but creating some kind of center or institute that brings thought leadership in the area of health and law, business and science to solve global problems. We have the faculty on campus right now who can do it, but I have to figure out, we have to figure out what that it is of a combination of those things. And I think that the PharmD program is a case in point of something that is going to even become more relevant in a post-COVID world. I think our neuroscience program, you start pulling all of these different things together, the ethics of AI, the ethics of surveillance testing, which, whether we like it or not, has gone to a whole new level. You have even a few college and university campuses that are using apps on students' phones to do contact tracing. Now, you only have to use your imagination of the downside of that. A lot of upsides, but the downside of that, once you're in a post-COVID world, what happens with all that data? Who determines what we do with that data? How is that data used? And what we've discovered is that Google has been taking our data and commoditizing it for over a decade now, right? And there are those who think that maybe they need to be broken up. But yeah, I think it's the PharmD program is going to be. I think health sciences in general, law in general, the sciences in general, business, and engineering. I mean, we have but so think about this. We have a law school, we have the professional schools in pharmacy and occupational therapy. We have business, we have engineering, and we have arts and sciences. And we're a national university. And let me talk about that for a minute. Because being a national university is a big deal in terms of drawing students. What does it mean to be a national university? there are about just shy of 4,000 colleges and universities in this country. About 330 of them receive designation as a national university. Western New England is a national university. That puts us in the top 15% of colleges and universities in the country. So when you take our size as a private institution, you take business, engineering, and the liberal arts, you take pharmacy and occupational therapy and the law school with the professional schools, you'll be hard pressed to find another a private school of our size with that mix of programs. You find plenty of other private schools our size, but not with the balance of the liberal arts and the professional schools and a world-class law school on top of it.
Great, thank you. And we are just approaching time, so I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions. Brandon asks, building on the residential learning you mentioned, students moving off campus, what is or will be the plan to improve housing on campus? There are needs for facilities improvements throughout campus, and will these be taken into account in the strategic goals?
They will be taken into account in the strategic goals, but what we really have to do is create a capital plan, a capital master plan. And from my understanding, the last capital plan we did was probably 8-10 years ago. So after we create the strategic goals and the priorities for the next 5 years, at the same time, in the course of this academic year, we will be creating the process by which we're going to create the next capital plan, so that by the spring of 2022, we'll have a capital master plan, which will address facility needs. And we have to, and the timing of that is good as well. We should be pretty much in a post-COVID world at that point. So when we start talking about doing that kind of work, stabilizing the institution, our enrollments and that sort of thing, we should be in a good place and space to do that. Quite frankly, my primary focus right now is to get our kids through Thanksgiving, and then to reopen in January and get everybody to Memorial Day, so to speak. And but we'll be doing a lot of planning between now and then. So once we get past this, we'll be able to deal with the deferred maintenance issues within housing and other areas.
Great. And we have another question, which I think will be a great place to leave it for the night since we're just about time. What is your favorite thing about Western New England?
Oh, that's easy. The people. It's the people. The people are absolutely fantastic. The students are exceptional, salt of the earth. It's just great people. That's what I love about Western New England the most. It's what attracted me to Western New England. And I'm excited and glad to be here. And I know that we're in difficult times, but we won't always be in a COVID world. And Katie and Christina, we'll look back on this, 2 or 3 years from now, and we'll be laughing. Hey, President Johnson, remember when I had you on that first Zoom call with the alumni, and you showed up late? We'll be able to talk, but we'll be able to talk about it in a large crowd with libations and and good food. And I understand the chocolate chip cookies, although I'm an oatmeal raisin guy. We'll be we'll be able to do that. So I want to thank everyone. I appreciate you. Please engage, be engaged, remain engaged. Attend a meeting, advisory council or board on campus within one of our disciplines. Coach or mentor a student. Help us help them get internships and co-ops. And again, thank you for your gifts, and please continue to do so. I appreciate you. I love you. And I'm going to sign off from Golden Bear Country right now, and look forward to meeting you all in person one day.
Perfect. Thank you so much, President Johnson, for taking the time with us tonight. It was definitely an energizing discussion, and also for all of our participants on the line, thank you for submitting your questions, for being engaged in this discussion, and for your deep interest in the university. I'll send some follow-up in an email so you can learn more about President Johnson, and also some additional information about the Vision 2025 project, and we welcome your input in that. I know, and I feel like I say this at every sign off, but none of us are looking for more Zooms in our lives. So for each of you who took time to be with us tonight, thank you very much. It means a lot to us. And we look forward to seeing you in person in the not too distant future, hopefully. Good night.
Good night.